thanks for joining me for this video. In today's video I'm going to be talking about how we can create an accurate drawing of whatever it is that we're going to go and paint. Now we're obviously doing a still life setup here, but these methods apply if you were outside doing a plein air painting, for example. The drawing techniques that I'm going to show today you can use. It's called, the method that we're going to do today is called the sight size method. And essentially what it means is you're taking the image that you can see and you're transferring it onto the paper and it remains exactly the same size, hence the same sight size. And it's really handy because all you need is a piece of string to do this method. There are other methods of drawing, as you're well aware, and I'll cover them in a different video, but today we're just focusing on this method. I'm going to try and set up the camera so that you get to see how this method works. I've not tried it yet, so just give me a moment. I'll get the camera set up and we can go from there. Right, I don't know how effective this is going to be in this demonstration. I've tried my best to line the camera up so that it's at the same horizontal plane as my eyesight, because essentially what we're doing with this method, the sight size method, is transferring what we can see here directly in line so that it appears in the same position on the paper. As you'll see, the setup and the easel are right next to each other, and the closer you can get those in the same plane, the more effective this will be. If the still life setup is slightly back, then of course it's further away from us and it will appear slightly smaller on the piece of paper. And what you need is you need to make sure that you're in the same position every time you take a measurement, because essentially what we're going to do is transfer some measurements from here onto here, and then we can use those as a scaffolding to build the drawing. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I'm in the same position every time. I will be getting in the way of the camera, so apologies for that. And I've got two cameras, so you can kind of flick between, and we'll hopefully you'll be able to see the image develop. So I'm making sure that my chair is in the same position. I'm not going to move from this. And when you take the measurements with the piece of string, it's really important that you're in exactly the same position and your arms stay the same length all the time. So well, your arms are going to stay the same length. They're not going to get longer or smaller, but I actually mean you keep them straight. So I'm not having them bent and I'm not changing the position of them. Every time I take a measurement, my arms are nice and straight. So the first thing I want to do is mark in these horizontal lines. So where the tabletop is at the front of the image, where the vertical plane meets the tabletop at the back, and they are going to be the first lines that I take. So I'm going to get the string nice and taut, arms out straight, and I'm lining the string up so that it's in line with this top edge of the tabletop. Okay, and I glance across and see where that falls on the paper. Okay, so I can see that that's falling approximately there. Okay, I'll just double check that. Yeah, so I've made a mark and I know it's horizontal line, so I'm just going to do a horizontal line across the page. Okay, now obviously if I was going to do this and I was going to do a painting, you can tidy that up with a ruler. The next measurement I want to take is the back of the table where the vertical and the tabletop meet. So again, I'm in the same position, arms are nice and straight. I line up the string and glance across to where that line meets the paper, and it's approximately here. And again we have another horizontal line, so I'm using my easel to help me draw the horizontal line across there. It's just steadying my hand. So that's essentially my tabletop, and the jugs are going to fit on there somewhere. What I need to do next is I need to decide where on this horizontal I want the jugs to sit. Okay, so I don't want them right over at this side or this side, and I want to give myself enough room. So if I start with the small jug on the left, I need to be aware that there's got to be enough room to go all the way across for the large jug on the right. So I need to go from this left hand side to this right hand side, and I need to know how much space on my paper that's going to take up and where I want to position these objects. So what I'm going to do is I'm in the same position again, and I'm going to have the string nice and tight, get my thumb on the left, outermost left point of the image, which is going to be the sort of lip of this jug. And then slide my other thumb along to the outermost right hand side of the image, which will be where the handle is. Again, same position, I slide across, and now I have the width of these two objects, and I want to know where on this canvas I'm going to position the width of the object. So I want them pretty much central, so I check with my thumb, make a mark there, take the measurement again, transfer that across. That's approximately there. So now that's going to be the right hand edge. Somewhere along there the large jug is going to fall. Okay, I hope you can see this. I'm conscious of the pencil marks being too faint. Obviously, if you're going to do this yourself, you'll use very faint pencil lines to build this so that you don't become confused. With me obviously doing this for demonstration, I have to do them quite bold. Now I'm going to draw my vertical in, and again I'm going to use the edge of this board to help me do that. So I've got that mark, okay, and I've drawn a line up. So I know my image is going to fit in here somewhere. That's the left hand edge, that's the right hand edge. I need to know where the top is though. So again, I get my piece of string, same position, nice and tight, and I'm lining this up with the topmost part of the big jug there. And I look across and I can see that it's going to be around about here somewhere. Okay, so somewhere that's the top of my image there. Okay, so I know that the jugs are going to fit into this rectangle. Now I need to know how far across they both come, where the top of the little jug is, where the top of the big one is, which is there, then how far across each jug goes. So the top of the small jug, again I can use my string, I can line it up, and it is approximately here somewhere. So it falls somewhere along that horizontal line. That's the height of it. We've got the top of the other jug, we did that before, that's along this line here. Now we need to know the width of both jugs. And if you notice, the jugs are obviously narrower at the top than they are at the bottom. So I'm going to take the bottom measurements, and then I'll figure out in a moment where the width of them is at the top. So the bottom jug, again I'm using, now you can use a pencil, you can use a piece of string for this. Pencil is just as good. What I'm doing here is I'm lining up the left hand edge of my pencil with the left hand side of the jug and slide my thumb across to get the width. Okay, my arm's still outstretched, you see, and then I can mark the width on here, which is approximately here. I'll do this with a piece of string, same thing. Get the width of the jug between my two thumbs, transfer it across, and yes, it was right with the other mark. So that jug is essentially that wide. Okay, again I'll darken these scaffolding lines so that you can see with the camera. Okay, again the width of the larger jug. Now I can, from where the camera's positioned, you probably don't see any gap between the two jugs, they probably overlap each other, but because I'm slightly offset at one side, I can actually see between the two jugs. So this right hand jug is going to be, there's going to be a slight gap between the left hand jug and the right hand jug. And that gap, I can measure the gap, is a fraction, it's just maybe half a centimetre. So that would be something like there. So the right hand jug is going to come out to that point there. Okay. The other thing, that from my position, the right hand jug obviously is further back, so it sits further back on the tabletop. Okay, so we don't have, at the moment, we don't have the bases of the jugs marked in. We've got the width of that one, we have the width of this one, but we don't have the bases. So I'm going to line my string up with the bottom of the left hand jug, and that comes just above, fractionally above the lip of the table, and it's about there. Okay, so now I have a complete rectangle for the left hand jug. The right hand jug, the base of the right hand jug is slightly further back, It doesn't look very much at all, but it's enough to just give the effect of it being further back. Okay, so there we have two rectangles that we now need to fit the jugs into. Obviously the next thing we need to do is decide how wide they are at the top. And what I'm going to do for this is again use my string to measure the width of it, and I know each of these rectangles there'll be a centre line. Okay, approximately there's the centre, approximately there's the centre, and I know obviously they're symmetrical, so once I've measured the width, which is, and I'm not going to go from there to there because obviously it splays out at the top. I'm going to go from this narrow point here so that I can work out the curvature. So I'm going from the narrowest point here, and that is okay, approximately there. Now if I find that on here, do it again. So I'm referring to the first mark that I put in. That's there. So the jug is narrower here, and then obviously it curves out on both sides. Same with the other one. The narrowest point of the jug is there, which I can figure out where that point is. I'll transfer it across. So the narrowest point of the jug is somewhere along this line. Okay, it's not very horizontal, is it? But somewhere along there. So I'm going to measure it again with my piece of string, transfer it across, get that central, and then I'm going to make a mark where the right hand narrow part is, and then I'm going to refer to my first mark. Okay, so that's the width of the large jug. Okay, it actually bellies in more, it narrows more there. Now I can start to think about the shape of it. So this kind of comes round, and as I said, it's symmetrical, so it's going to come down something like that. Okay, obviously you spend a bit more time on this if you were doing this yourselves, and we know it comes out. Okay, so that's the right hand jug. The left hand jug, again, we can go to those marks that I put in earlier, and that comes down like that. The same thing here. Now the lip on this one's quite sharp, and again, I'm still looking at that. I'm not just doing this without referring to the objects. I'm still glancing across and seeing that the curves are similar. Okay, so there's the jug. Now the bottom, there is a slight ellipse at the bottom, but it's very, very slight. It's almost a horizontal line there. And this one's slightly more elliptical because it's further back, and it's slightly bigger. Okay. Okay, so I've got a rough idea of the jugs. They are roughly marked in now. And then I need to think about where the handles are going to go. So I'm going to line up with the top part of the handle on the left hand jug, and that comes across, and that is, so the handle starts here somewhere, and the base of the handle is down there. Okay, and the width of the handle, how far out it comes. Now there's various ways I can do this. I can make a comparison between that and if I take the vertical, where it falls in line. Does it actually line up with the narrowest part of the jug? At the top it does. So the little jug's handle is directly in line with that narrow point there. So if I take a vertical down from that, okay, the handle comes out like this. Okay, you can also do the measurement of the handle by using your thumb and finding a width, and it's exactly the same. So all I'm doing is measuring from one thumb to the other thumb there, take that across, and it brings us to the same point here. Now obviously I'd spend more time doing this drawing and making it a lot tidier than I have done. The handle on the other jug Okay, we know it comes out to this line here, so this curve is slightly wrong, and it starts, let's see, it starts down here, and the top of it is there, so it curves around. It's actually, I think my original measurement of the width of the jug was slightly wrong. Let me just double check that. Yeah, so that actually should come to there. Which means the jug's more like that. Okay, and then the handle would fit in something like that. Okay. The idea of this sight size method isn't to give you an accurate drawing. What it's going to do is give you reference points that you can then spend more time refining the drawing and getting the shapes and the curves and things like that right. It also allow you to have the objects in the correct proportions compared to each other. So it's really useful for that. Now I've kind of charged through that and rushed it. If you were to do this yourselves, it's worth spending a lot of time double checking your measurements. Again, making sure that you're in the same position. That's a key part of this. Same position every time you take a measurement, and cross-reference with actually what you can see as well. So although you've got these guidelines in place, you still need to keep looking at the object. So I'm drawing it. If I want to draw the curve on this jug, I need to be glancing constantly across at the jug to make sure that I've got the proportions right and the angle of the curve, etc. But I've now got a framework that I can work within. Okay, so that's pretty much the sight size method for drawing. I hope you find it interesting and useful. I'm going to do another video probably in the next couple of weeks on other methods for transferring what you can see onto the paper and helping you produce accurate drawings. And the reason, I've said it before, drawing is so important. If you want to paint realistic images, if the drawing's wrong, the illusion just falls apart immediately. So it's really important that you get that bit right. I mean, everything's important, but people will spot a mistaken drawing straight away. It just jumps out. Okay, so until next time, thank you very much for watching, and bye bye.